Good evening, Councillor Langford-Smith. It's Claire Buchanan. We're just waiting for other members to join, and we'll get going at 6 o'clock.
Thank you very much. That's lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Councillor Briggs. It's Claire Buchanan here, Democratic Services Officer. Just waiting for other members to join, and we'll get going at 6. If I can ask you to mute your camera and microphone until we start the meeting, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Councillor Cutler. We are live streaming now on YouTube, so if you could just mute your microphone until we get going, I'll let you know when all members have joined that I'm expecting.
Okay, thanks, Claire.
Thank you. Councillor Langford-Smith, can I just ask, are you deputising this evening for a member? Is you're a deputy on the forum, or are you just sitting in the background to listen to the discussions?
I'm just sitting in to listen.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
confirming. Thank you. Councillor Berry, if I can ask you to mute your microphone and turn your camera off, please, until we start the meeting, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Atchwell, can I just ask, are you deputising tonight for a member? You're a deputy on this forum. Are you just listening to the proceedings this evening? Councillor Atchwell, it's Claire Buchanan. Hello, Councillor Robinson. If I can just ask you to mute your microphone and your camera until we start the meeting, that's great. Thank you very much. Councillor Crichton, please can I ask you to turn your camera off until we start the meeting? Thank you very much. Councillor Culler, just to let you know, we are quorate to start at 6 o'clock. I'm expecting more members to join, but we are quorate. Thank you.
Marvellous.
Hi, Hi, this is Husky.
Hello, Councillor Patel. We're in the next few minutes, we'll be starting the meeting. So if I can just ask you to mute your microphone until we start, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I will.
Thank you.
Right, I will wait until exactly turn 6. We're nearly there.
Thank you. If I can just ask you to mute your cameras, if you're other than Councillor Cutler, please, until we start in the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, we'll make a start. Good evening, everybody. Can I welcome you to this meeting of the West of Waterlooville Forum? Time is 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 31st of October 2023. My name is Councillor Neil Cutler, Chairperson of the Forum. This meeting is being held virtually and in accordance with with Winchester City Council's rules for virtual meetings. First of all, can I ask that everyone present in this virtual meeting that your microphones remain muted and your camera is turned off while you're not addressing the meeting, as this will reduce background noise and avoid unintentional disturbances. This meeting is being live streamed from the Council's YouTube channel, and the recording will also be available after the meeting. Subtitles can be switched on, and advice on how to turn these on is set out on our website. Members and officers, where appropriate for each item, please indicate that you wish to speak or raise a point of order or explanation by raising your hand using the hand icon on your screen, and I will invite you to speak at the appropriate time. Each member will be invited to speak in turn, therefore I would encourage all members to keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. Finally, we have a number of officers present this evening. Please can I ask you to introduce yourselves as you speak. So moving on to the agenda, the first item is apologies. Claire, do we have apologies?
Thank you, Councillor Cutler. Yes, apologies for absence received from Councillor Lloyd from Havant Borough Council and from officers Steve Weaver from Havant Borough Council and Louise Weaver from Havant Borough Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move to item 3, which is appointment of the Vice Chairperson for the 23-24 municipal year. The Vice Chairman, in accordance with the terms of reference, should be a councillor from Havant Borough Council. Do I have a nomination? If not, I would like to nominate Councillor Gwen Robinson as if she's happy to accept.
I'm happy to accept, Councillor Cutler. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Are there any other nominations? Are we happy to accept Councillor Robinson as Vice Chair?
Happy to accept Councillor
Agreed.
Robinson.
Okay, thank you. Agreed. Thank you, Gwen. Item 4, disclosures of interest. Do we have any disclosures of interest from members or officers? I see no hands, so I will take the view that that's.
Oh
yes,
there's a hand
hand
from Councillor Reid.
Councillor Reid, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to state that I'm also a member of the Newlands Parish Council, as well as being a district councillor.
Thank you very much. I think that applies to Councillor Brooke as well. I'm not sure if she's here.
I'm
Oh,
here.
she's. Yes, well, both Councillor Reid and Councillor Brooke are members of Newlands Parish Council. Well, already noted. Minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of March 2023. I know it was a rather long time ago. Are these minutes agreed? If I hear nothing, I'm assuming that they're agreed. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Michael. Matters arising. Are there any matters arising?
No hands. Oh yes, sorry, Councillor Crichton.
Councillor Crichton, please. Yep.
Thank you, Chairman. In relation to the first item in the minutes of the last meeting, which was an update on the cemetery, I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that in discussions with Granger, we have discovered that there is an issue with that piece of land in that the two of the national high capacity gas mains run directly under the cemetery plot. And therefore, there are sections of it which cannot be excavated to more than 6 feet. Now, whilst it doesn't negate the use of the rest of it for a cemetery plot, obviously, and I understand Havant's need for further ones, we need to consider what the implications of that before we make a final decision on the use of that particular section.
Okay, thank you for that, David. I think we will note that point, since this is work being undertaken between, I think, Granger's from the minutes that Granger are looking at the viability of the site along with Havant, and I'm sure we'll have an update when they have reached the decision-making stage. There was one other item at the last minute, and I'll just raise it as an issue to be considered perhaps at a later date, is that having received an email from Rebecca Marsden, who spoke at the previous meeting about flooding, she's written to express her concerns about further problems with the sewage main with this heavy rain lately, and I don't know if anyone present has got any comment they wish to make on that.
Councillor Crichton. Yeah.
Councillor Crichton again. Thanks.
Yes, just very briefly, I reported this to Taylor Wimpey and was told that their response team was coming the following day to examine it. The irony is that is the first overflow that's taken place for some considerable time. It had been hoped that work that Southern Water had carried out had resolved the problem, but clearly it hasn't. So we're waiting for a further report from Taylor Wimpey on this one.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll again note that correspondence was received and follow it up for the next meeting. Item 6, public participation. We've had no requests for anybody to speak here, so we'll move on. To item 7, which is the presentation on the Waterlooville Leisure Centre extension, and it's to receive a presentation from Simon Hasted from Havant and Michael. Sorry, my pieces of paper.
Michael Lyons.
Michael Lyons, yes. Thanks, Michael. Sorry,
it's all right.
Slipped my mind. That was on the next page. So if you could, between you, I don't know who's going to take control on this, but I'll hand over to you, the three of you on the screen.
I'll try. Okay. If okay with colleagues, I'll take over and share the presentation and start things off. But for those that don't know who I am, I'm Mike Lyons. I'm the Chief Executive of Horizon Leisure Trust, and hopefully this evening we can give the forum an insight into a project that's gathering momentum, and will present Waterlooville with a total transformation, hopefully in the near future. So we just okay, can people see that?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All good, thank you.
Okay, so this project has gathered momentum probably over the last 20 months since I joined Horizon, and you may know that Waterlooville is a flourishing leisure centre with over 400,000 visits per year, doing a variety of activities, and it caters for every age range and ability level, and a very enjoyable facility, but still lots of potential for the future. So we wanted to develop a vision for the future and to work out how we could modify the facility, not just for now, but for future generations as well, and encourage more people to live a healthier and more active lifestyle. So just a little bit of background around health in the UK and locally. Inactivity, quite sadly, is associated with 1 in 6 deaths in the UK, and costs 7.4 billion annually, but 1 billion directly to the NHS. So within Havant, we've got quite a few people that are inactive or considered to be inactive, and they hadn't done any physical activity within the last 28 days. And this is worse than both the national average and the regional average. And 33%, quite concerning, of young people are inactive in Havant, and once again worse than the region and nationally. And the Joint Strategic Needs Assessment evidences the need for the project highlighting areas in the south east of Winchester District currently experience poor access, or the access could be better to leisure facilities. So looking specifically at Havant as an example, you can see that those in the red block are active and take part in at least 150 minutes of physical activity per week. But as you see the graph progress throughout the years and the surveys, this, by the way, this is the Active Lives survey that's undertaken by Sport England. You can see that probably about a third of the borough in Havant do less than the recommended level of the recommended guidance on physical activity, which once again is concerning. And there is quite a correlation between those inactive people and the location, i.e. The link to what are considered to be more deprived communities. So our vision is to look at Waterlooville, but look at things that will attract new people into physical activity, provide services that are attractive to local people and where there's a potential shortage, and to look at potentially outdoor space, fitness areas and enhancing and modernising fitness areas, but also an area for families to congregate, so including soft play and a better food and beverage option as well. And that means that people will stay longer, have options to take part in activities, but stay in the centre, socialise, all very positive for the community. So the project scope and indicative budget, we've gone out to 3 quality contractors, and probably will go to more once we decide the final price on the project. They were all selected to submit proposal, and we've got an indicative project in the region. Some quotes came in around the 3 million mark, but that figure's yet to be finalised, and we're working with our board and Havant Borough Council to work out what those concepts will look like. And that includes local consultation. Really important that we go out to the local communities to see if the activities that we're looking to put into the centre are things that local people want. And the delivery of the project will be working in close partnership with Havant Borough Council, but we have submitted a bid through Winchester City Council as well. So because there's the borderline from Waterlooville into sort of the southern parts of Winchester, it's important too that we sort of work really closely with Winchester Council as well. So let's take a look at the proposed concepts, and I'll hand over to Scott Mackenzie, who's our commercial director, and Scott will take you through the plans and show some visuals.
Sorry, Scott, you're muted. Thank you.
It's a good start, isn't it? It's nice to meet you all. My name's Scott Mackenzie. I'm the commercial director at Horizon. I'm going to talk you through some of the concepts that are being proposed at this stage. As Mike has alluded to, and Simon will no doubt talk about as well, is that whilst these concepts are on the table, so to speak, I think it's important to note that we are putting these subject to a community engagement feedback piece, which we're about to liven up very shortly, and that feedback will be pivotal in whether these concepts go ahead and what we prioritise. More details to follow on that piece. So as you can see here, there's some indicative images as to the project scope. On the top left there, you can see cutting edge audio visual lighting equipment, which would take place in a newly installed cycle studio, which the site currently doesn't have. In the centre there, you can see a holistic studio, which we are looking to add as well. That would be an additional studio, and that studio would be used for all sorts of activities, including yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, and also just things whereby, partnerships with local healthcare providers. We could also use these studios, the holistic studio, especially for things like healthcare workshops, smoking cessation classes, those kind of things as well, in the downtime when they're not being used for yoga and Pilates. But very much a transformation, very sort of modern holistic studio and cycle studio. In the bottom left, we'll be looking to add in a high intensity boutique studio concept, which is akin to those that you would see in a city centre like London. Very trendy, very sort of on trend with the latest fitness trends, used for all sorts of classes, not just high intensity classes, but low intensity classes as well. We appreciate we've got members who don't want the high energy, high impact stuff and actually just want something a little bit more low key. So that sort of studio again would be multi-purpose. We'd also be able to put families in there. You'd have mum and dad being able to train with their little ones, doing family classes, punch bags, that kind of thing. So very much a community piece on that studio as well. What's not in these images, and these are just indicative at this stage, but is a complete transformation of the gym space. We have a 3-floor gym at the moment. We would give that a complete makeover. Everything from the flooring, the lighting, the machines, the layout and the provision for the community would all improve and grow with this refurbishment. But these drawings, or these pictures rather, certainly give you a good indication of look and feel for the site, and hopefully you'll agree it really does bring it to a whole new level. So that was the transformation of the fitness space specifically. If I just try and move now to the next slide.
Sorry, Scott, can I ask a question?
Certainly, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry, this is Councillor Patel from Havant Borough Council.
Nice
The cycle track that you mentioned, is it going to be a proper cycle track, or is it just hard standing cycles?
Upright static cycles, Councillor Patel, but would be in a studio, quite an immersive studio. We'd have technology that would allow members to see their data on a big screen. There'd be virtual classes in there as well, where you can get on the bike and get a little bit of an escape from reality and see some nice landscapes, etc. So it'll be a combination of instructor-led classes and virtual classes for the community to enjoy.
Okay, so it won't be a complete cycle track like a big massive track.
If we had the space, I'd love a velodrome track. But
Space and money. Yeah.
yeah, of course, yeah. But we can do a lot with it, and the technology these days, you can really create different environments in these studios now using that AV technology.
Brilliant, thank you.
No problem. Mike, could you try and skip the slide along? Is it? I don't know if it's. If I give control back to you, for some reason it's not moving. Just try that for me.
Sorry,
No.
Mike, you're muted.
Yes, Scott, I've given you control again.
Ah, right. Yeah. Oh no, is that moved? Sorry about this, everyone.
Yeah, unfortunately, the display has gone small now. Yeah, so you need to.
Did everyone see that?
Only a very small version, unfortunately.
I've got a full version.
Yeah, you've got the full version.
Full as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got it full.
Right, it's only
I
me
have
then.
a full
It's
version
displaying
too.
full on the YouTube anyway.
I've got a full version.
I can see the full version. Don't worry about me then.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not sure why that's happening.
They are in the agenda pack, the slides.
Okay, I'll carry on. Just obviously conscious of time as well. So hopefully you can all see that or a version of it in a certain size window. But this next slide was just really to convey the plans around just adding some quality, as Mike alluded to, around the food and beverage offering, and also creating a place whereby our families can bring their little ones in and just enjoy some soft play time. So mum and dad can get that much needed social time with their friends whilst the kids play. So very much a rejuvenation again of our current cafe, which is actually quite large, and we would again give that a full overhaul. So it'd be everything from furniture, flooring, lighting, even the servery, and with that premium approach to the facility, we would look to put in an enhanced menu as well to complement that area, because we would envisage very high usage through the improvement of the cafe. At the very top end of the cafe, as you look out the window into the car park, for those that have used the site, there is a nice space at the top of the cafe whereby, as per the image there on the right hand side, we'd look to put in some sort of one level soft play area with potentially with a ball pit and some immersive features for the little ones, and a relocation of the creche from the back of the centre beside the soft play would then mean that whole journey for the kids and for the families and for parents would become so much better. I'm not sure if there's any questions on that slide. I'm happy to move on if not.
Let's keep things rolling.
Yeah. It's really not enjoying my my laptop. Mike, I'm going to give the control back to you if that's all right.
Yeah, fine.
I'm clearly not to be trusted with the slide deck. Just not working. Yeah.
Yes. Do you want to carry on, Scott?
Yeah, thank you very much. So this takes us to outside now. We've very much talked about the plans for inside. So we've obviously for inside, just to summarize that, we have plans for studio, a huge studio improvement, which would see people to be able to train in groups and exercise in groups, families through to just adults on their own, through to kids. Immersive environments that people can really escape from the day-to-day grind, as it were, through to the gym, which we've touched on, and some of those visuals showed you what they would look like, and then also the cafe and soft play area as well. This slide really indicates what the plan would be for, or the proposed plan would be for the outdoor area. So as things stand, we've got a proposal whereby we would take an area of the car park and reposition that for the allocation of 1 to 2 pitches, depending on whether we went for 5-a-side or 7-a-side. We'd obviously like to seek feedback on that. So it might be the case that it'd be 1 pitch, for example, but a larger pitch which would have more function. That pitch would be used for obviously 5-a-side, 7-a-side, but it could also be used for an array of things such as holiday camps, some partnerships with local schools as well. On the right hand side, for those that are unfamiliar with paddle, I wasn't much of an expert until I also had to do the research on this, but paddle is very much an up and coming racket sport in Europe. It's making great momentum across the UK now, and it's something that I think would add serious value again to the community. So the addition of 2 paddle courts with a canopy over the top would mean that the play could be carried out all across the year, every season, come rain or snow. So functional paddle courts and a pitch for the outdoor would be the plan. If I flick onto the next slide, you'll see a little bit from an aerial perspective as to what that could look like. So for those that know the centre, you'll recognise that space on the top left hand side, whereby it's a little bit of an overspill car park at the moment for those busy periods. What we would plan to do would be to put that provision into that space and then reline the car park, so that we don't actually lose parking provision for our customers and pay-as-you-go customers. That's obviously very important to us. We don't want to create any strain on our customers. So as you can see here, the blue squares would be additional car parking spaces, just knocking things around a little bit, and then obviously putting those fantastic new additions into the top left there on the drawing. Next slide, please, Mike. So that's a little bit about the plan and the scope. I wasn't sure, Simon, if you want to take this slide or if you're happy for me to take it.
Yeah, I'm happy to take it, Scott. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Evening, everybody. So for those that don't know me, I'm Simon Hastad. I'm the Senior Leisure Officer at Havant Borough Council, and obviously working really closely with Horizon Leisure on this as a project. I think a big part of this project is around ensuring that we're providing facilities that are sustainable both financially and environmentally in the long term, so that we've got really high quality leisure facilities for residents of both Havant and Winchester for many years to come. And so as part of this project, we'll be looking at doing anything we possibly can around investor save options to improve the environmental sustainability of the centre. I think a good example of that is that we've just submitted an application actually to Sport England in the last couple of weeks to their swimming pool support fund, to the tune of just shy of £200,000 towards some solar PV for the roof at Waterlooville, which would obviously go some way towards reducing energy costs of the building and keeping it running sustainably in the long term. So that's worth noting, and also that any future development would consider active and green travel to the site through extended cycle storage, looking into the possibilities of electric car charging points, and rewarding users of the centre for accessing the facilities via walking and cycling links and public transport as well. So I think that's quite important to mention. In terms of local evidence of need, I think all of these concepts that Mike and Scott have displayed with you this afternoon are based on robust local evidence of need. So that's from both Havant and Winchester's playing pitch strategies and built leisure facilities strategies, which are evidence bases for the local plan. So very much consider population growth over the next few decades and what types of facilities that there is a gap for locally and what we have a shortage of locally, and that's what this project is trying to address. So it is really much focused around the potential for increased use of these facilities, but also to address those really major health inequalities that Mike set out at the start of the presentation, that we experience locally linked to those deprivation stats that we're all well aware of. It's also worth mentioning that the facilities that have been shown in the concept here have been through a process of a feasibility study as well. So with an external leisure consultant who's kind of supported the process throughout and suggested that these are financially viable operating facilities for the long term as well. I think that's it on that one. Mike, if you want to skip on. Next steps. I'm happy to take this one as well if you like.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, fine.
So just in terms of where we are at the moment, as we've said, it's very much early stages. We're in that stage of gaining those concept designs, the indicative side of things, and a planning pre-app has been submitted to Havant Borough Council, so we can get that feedback with regards to the proposed facility. Obviously, we've had the £200,000 seal bid confirmed from Winchester City Council, which is fantastic news. And so that means we're in a position of having a little bit more cost certainty or funding certainty at the moment. The next step is around confirming any Section 106 monies from Havant Borough Council towards the project, which we hope to do in the early part of next year. And that will come once we've carried out that process of public engagement to understand what people want to see in those facilities and to kind of ratify those concept ideas that we've come forward with. And once we've achieved that and we've been able to fully cost up the final project plan, we'd be in a position then to move forward with tendering for final design and construction contractors from sort of spring, summer next year, hopefully. Before we move forward with the build phase and completion. Obviously, it's a long road ahead, and we're very much at the outset, but it's obviously a really exciting project to hope to deliver over the next sort of 12 to 18 months or so. I think that's it. I don't know if Michael, Scott, if you had anything else you wanted to add before we move over to welcome any questions.
All good.
Not really. No. I hope you found it sort of quite enlightening, the project. We're a charity, so we would offer services at a very high value. So the pricing to local people would be super competitive, meaning that everybody can take part in the new facilities. But we're open to questions. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Well, thank you, Mike, Scott, and Steve. That's really useful and an informative presentation. I mean, certainly Winchester City Council are very keen to support this side of things and are pleased that the seal bid has gone through. It is of real importance, particularly for those in the Denmead and Newlands parishes, the West Waterlooville development, but also further afield. I think I represent Southwark and Wickham as well, which is part of the West Waterlooville, but you know, is further afield. I think as far into the Central Mearn Valley ward, where, you know, sort of Hambledon, Soberton, Newtown, Droxford area again is within the range. So it's quite important to us to work with you as much as we possibly can, and it's one of the key sort of parts of this forum really, is to encourage facilitate this cross-border work with Havant Borough Council. So questions, I have Mike, Councillor Reid first.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to carry on a little bit from where you finished, and that is with regard to the numbers of people that will be coming in from the west. Bearing in mind that at 5:30 in the evening, public transport ceases. So everything will be done after that period of time, coming in by their own local transport. So that's something to bear in mind. You mentioned the EVC. How many EVCs have you actually got in the car park at the moment, and what is the possibility, and how many will it increase to?
Who's going to answer that one?
Sorry, I was on mute then. At the moment, we don't have EVCs in the car park, but we'll give a proportion. We're not sure on the exact numbers now, but it is, Councillor Reid, something that is going to gain momentum and need more provision. So, but you saw the slide that Scott presented with an increase in the number of bays based on the pitches, etc. We will carefully consider that, but we will make sure and take guidance as well, because I suppose for a similar number of car parking spaces, there should be a more likely percentage of those spaces that would have VVC.
Thank you. Could I just go on with a couple more things, if I may? The bays
Yeah,
themselves,
okay.
the bays themselves, you're going to reallocate the bays and you're going to remark. I trust you will do it in a size that people can get out of their car and not do like the Swedish do. A car measures 2 meters wide, so the spot is 2 meters wide. So just a comment there. The other one is you referred to pricing for local people.
Yeah.
What is your interpretation of local people, please?
Well, I think, you know, we've referred throughout the presentation to residents of both Havant as a borough, but we're the areas that Councillor Cutler mentioned around Denmead and going into sort of Meon Valley, etc. You know, people will travel in there. So the pricing from our perspective is our prices are competitive anyway, and we benchmark them regularly against other local leisure providers. But the other thing that we do and will be embraced by this scheme is we offer a community discount card as well, which will be available for people that visit the facility, and it's up to 40% discount off activities. So if people are on lower incomes or it is a challenge around transport and getting to the centre and participating at a certain fee, there is the opportunity for people that are in receipt of benefits on lower income to take advantage of a discount card as well. But our memberships are really, really competitive in comparison to other local providers.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Patel, you have a question.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just I mean, you touched on it, Michael, about the cost of it, and I'm happy that there is going to be some discount and all that. And by the way, thank you for the presentation. They're absolutely brilliant, and these kind of facilities are really, really called for in the area, given how the Bearwood and Granger estates are sort of, you know, increasing. One thing I didn't see on there was the improvement of the swimming pool. Are there any plans to improve that? And also, you know, going back onto the green agenda, if the buses are going to stop at 5 o'clock and majority of the people will want to use the facilities after 5 o'clock, can we do something to get the buses to go on till a little bit later or something?
Who's going to answer?
I'm not sure. Yeah, in terms of the swimming pool, we haven't made plans to refurbish the pool tank itself, but it is a relatively modern pool. We've spent about £40,000 on putting a pool cover in there to make it more green, sustainable. That's in operation at the moment. The changing rooms, however, would be refurbished. So we get lots. The biggest bone of contention from customers is the changing room quality, and people notice that. So you go for a lovely swim and then you go into changing rooms that are quite dated and in need of a refresh. So the changing rooms will be refurbished, both wet and dry. And it'll be a much more ambient space. In terms of transport, I think we've got to encourage more of the green travel where possible and get more bike racks and EV points, etc., into there. I can't answer the question about the bus routes. Maybe there's a discussion to be had with transport to see whether there could be an extension of service. I don't know, Simon, if you would know, or if there's a possibility we can make contact.
Yes, it's not my realm of expertise either, unfortunately, but yeah, something we can certainly look into.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
One of the key things that I think we also need to consider here is that bike racks, EV charging points, actually at the centre are a good thing, but I think we need to be working together to make sure that the cycle routes are safe. You know, one of the very key things that we've had requested quite a few times from the the major development area from the Newlands area is if we could find some access directly in, either as a cycle or walking, into the sort of Brambles Farm area, so that residents in the new development don't have to come out onto the main road. And that would save quite a bit of, it would encourage a lot more active travel, be it bike or walking from that area. And in fact, that is one of the sort of conditions of the SIL bid, is to look at this active travel side of things. So I think it's we'd be very keen to work with you and work with Havant from the Winchester side to see if it is possible to find some routes in that avoid coming out onto the Hambledon Road from that development. Councillor Crichton, please, next question.
Sorry, can I just add one more thing before David? What can we look at putting in the steam and sauna, please?
Yeah, Councillor Patel, I'm glad you've. I was actually going to elaborate on Mike's point around the swimming pool question. So the changing rooms, obviously Mike's mentioned, but the other thing that we are looking to do in the scope would be to not necessarily improve the pool, because we feel that's a good offering already, but certainly to add poolside steam, glass fronted steam room and glass fronted sauna to poolside, so that whole wet side experience does improve as a whole. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Before we move across to Councillor Crichton, could you take down the slides now? I think it will make it easier to see. And
that'd be better
thanks.
for the YouTube. Thank you.
And then we'll move across to Councillor Crichton's question, please.
You've already answered part of what I was going to ask. There is a major problem in relation to access from our part of the development into the Brambles Farm as a whole and to the leisure centre. There are people present who will be aware that we've looked at various options, including paths along one side of the Hambledon Road, but nothing so far has provided anything which gives a safe access. And there is supposed to be an overall strategy for cycle and foot access across the area. And I would actually remind members that there is extant planning permission for one access already into Brambles Farm from Houghton Avenue, which was agreed some time ago and is fully funded from SIL contributions, but has so far nothing's been done on. And that would at least give some access into the far side of Brambles Farm. But we're looking, really representing the Wellington Park side of the development at the moment. There is no easy way to get into any part of Brambles Farm, including the Horizon Centre, without a very long trek round. And I might add, slightly tongue-in-cheek, that I have the full support of the post office in this, who have exactly the same problem when they want to get anywhere from their sorting office, which of course is just along the road from you. So I would certainly agree with Councillor Cutler that we need to sit down and look at this. Some of you are aware I have made proposals in the past, which so far haven't come to fruition, but I think we've got to find a solution. Ironically, when the planning approval was given for the Aldi development within the BAE site, there was actually a requirement to provide the north-south cycle and foot access, but that appears only to have been within Brambles Farm rather than outside of it. So I think there is an acceptance of the fact that we need to do this. It's just the best way to go about doing it. Thank you.
Thanks for that, David. I think that point's well made, and it's something that we will collectively explore as this process goes forward. I have hand up from Mark Maitland. Mark, would you like to comment?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just a couple of questions, if I may. You mentioned the community consultation that's going to be undertaken as part of the project. I just wanted to whether you could clarify in terms of what form that consultation will take. Will it be online? Will it be an open meeting? Will it, whatever? If you could clarify that. And secondly, was to ask a question as to whether once the consultation is completed, will it be possible to share the results of that consultation, both with the general public, but specifically in mind is the Newlands Community Plan Group that I'm currently supporting, because that will invariably feed into the work that they want to do. And if your consultation is also going to include leafleting and hard copy type of consultation with local residents, they may well be able to help and support with that on the new development. Thank you.
Simon, are you responding on the consultation, or do you have, or Scott, do you have a particular approach that you've got planned?
So I'm happy for you to. I mean, we've obviously collaborated on it, but yeah.
I'm happy to give a summary on the engagement piece. I think that the plan is that we would be using an online tool that Havant Borough Council have used previously for quite a few engagement pieces. It's called Citizen Lab, and the idea is that they would populate a page on that website with the various concept options and seek people's response to that. In terms of the comms around it, we obviously want to get that piece of consultation out as far and wide as possible. So obviously Scott and Mike will be working with their membership base, their existing members, to promote the opportunity for existing members to have their say on the concepts internally. And then Havant Borough Council will be working with as many community groups and organisations locally that we possibly can to get this word out about this, to hear as many varied responses as we possibly can. We particularly want to hear from those people who maybe don't already visit the leisure centre, so we want to encourage more people to use these facilities in the future to improve their health. So they're the people that we really want to get to. Once we have to answer your question on the results, absolutely. Once we have those results and we've been able to interpret those and plan a way forward using that data, we'll absolutely be able to kind of share that publicly to make sure that, because I think it's important in closing that feedback loop. Once somebody's given their view on something, we want to be able to tell them how their view has influenced the project delivery and the next step. So absolutely, we'll be able to share a report on that.
So can I ask that you liaise with us at Winchester to make sure that we can help you get that that consultation out to as many within our patch as possible as well, because I think that's so. Perhaps liaise with, I don't know, with Mark or through the forum to me, you know, one way or another. We'll make sure that it goes out to particularly the Denmead and Southwark and Wickham wards, the West of Waterlooville development area, but further afield as well, to give people the opportunity to respond to it, because I think if you have the aspiration to sort of serve that area as well, then it's quite important that we consult within that area, engage within that area as well. So I don't see any further hands, so I'd like to thank you for the presentation, for coming along to the meeting. I think it's a really important piece of engagement for residents within the West of Waterlooville area, but also wider. And thanks very much for coming.
Thank you, Councillor Cutler.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on then to item 8, which is the Granger Progress Report. And Chris Williams, I'm hoping, I haven't seen Chris on the screen yet, but hi Chris. So can I hand over to you, Chris, to present the progress report?
Of course, I think to avoid any of my own technical issues, I will probably not be sharing my screen to avoid having similar issues with slides. Certainly, the report that has been included within our agenda tonight, and there's a copies of that available. Firstly, I'd like to apologise as it is slightly out of date in comparison to where it could be. Some people within the group tonight may be aware that we have had very recent changes within our staff, not just to mention during the original development of this report, but also as of last week, our development director will be looking to transition away from Granger into a new role. As such, myself and David McCarthy, the two current project managers on the development, will be taking the lead role within Bearwood moving forward. Myself focused predominantly on infrastructure, and David, who unfortunately can't be here tonight, focused on the land sale side of it. But certainly, if there's any questions needed, we're both more than available. We're happy to discuss. Running through an updated version of the track or the report that's been provided. The main differences really are that we have now completed the land sale of Maple Grove and Dobbington Glen, which is phase 10B and 11B. These are now with a developer called Bargate Homes. They produce some fantastic stuff, which I'm sure people will see the planning submissions for them soon. With regards to the facilities elements, all of these are still progressing as per the last update. I know that the secondary school application has been submitted and is being worked through. David's heavily involved in that. And the northern allotments, I believe we are due planning, if not before Christmas, just after Christmas, I think is our current aim, which would be then us getting proceeding into getting that delivered in early 24. That's the planning elements related to our school extension land and Blue Star land. Both of them are currently out and are due back in the next 2 to 3 months, hopefully before Christmas, but quite probably into the early new year as well. With regards to our infrastructure, our Western Link Road is now completed. It is not open to the public just as of yet to avoid any people using the 1 kilometre of empty free road as a nice route to drive at speed. So we are currently using that predominantly for construction access to allow the developers to build in. As the parcels within or linked to that road become occupied, we will then be opening it up to allow the residents and others to use it. It's still got some finishing works that are required on it as part of our Section 38 process, so it's not entirely suitable for non-construction traffic to drive on currently anyway. We are proceeding or still in conversations with Hampshire County Council regarding the Southern Access Junction. We've been having long conversations with them about that now. My short time at Granger, I've picked it up and effectively had to start again. So there are frustrations from Hampshire that they've been dealing with it for a lot longer than I have, but you know, it's not much I can help there. Unfortunately, I'm trying to review it with a fresh light. As part of those works, we will need to look at how we can deliver that element of works, as there is a culvert or an existing culvert within the network at Ladybridge Road and also on London Road that passes under them. We are very early stages of trying to figure out how to deliver that asset and upgrade that element of works without doing significant impacts or disruption to the local area. At present, we are very early stages of reviews, but there'll probably be quite an in-depth review of that in one of our future West Waterlooville forum meetings, I imagine, depending on how we get on with our discussions. Phase 1, which is Granger Street, is currently on maintenance within Bearwood. That is due to hopefully be adopted by May next year. That is our current target aim. We've had some end of maintenance inspections, and that has produced some questions and items that need to be picked up. So we'll be working through them with Hampshire in the near future. With regards to our community elements, we've obviously still continuing with our elements. We have had our community development manager move on as well. However, we are in the process of meeting prospective candidates with the potential aim or hopeful aim to have someone in place at that position for Christmas, which would allow the uninterrupted updates of the Bearwood newsletter to come out in the new year. And again, the adoptions page on the last section there, I've gone through where we are with that. We are proceeding with stage 1 to ensure that we can get that across the line and get everything squared away, because it should effectively be a copy and paste scenario when it comes to the agreements after we've completed the first phase at Bearwood, making all the other ones significantly quicker. At present, there's a large amount of legal to and fro for getting the legal agreements in place. Technical approval and comfort with the existing infrastructure is quite high with Hampshire. It's just the legal element that's delaying us currently. And that's my update for Bearwood. So I'm more than happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Chris. I mean, I actually have a question, although several hands have gone up, so I'll let them go ahead first. Gwen, Councillor Robinson.
So yes, thanks, Neil. Hi, Chris. Thank you for that update. I mean, I was going to raise this the last one, but it was cancelled. But and you may have addressed it. But when I back in the summer, I was walking around the site and found that I understood the roads not being made up, but what I couldn't understand was the pavements not being made up. And I was with another councillor, and she really did take quite a tumble, and she did hurt herself quite badly. I don't understand why, as you know, the houses along the particular areas I went to, that the pavements were not finished, so they had the raised sort of like a manhole cover. You know, they are trip hazards. I mean, that's trip for old people, children, because we know they run without looking, people, you know, pushchairs, you know, mobility scooters, you know, what, you know, whose responsibility is it? Granger's responsibility for the pavements? You know, what is the process for, you know, you do a series of houses and the people have moved in, surely the pavements should be finished before people move in or very soon after people move in. So I just wanted you to just clarify a few things for me.
Yeah, and that actually was going to be my question as well. And I think Gwen's referring to the Bearwood Green area where the building is complete. Most of the roads are not being used for construction traffic. Plant Farm Avenue may be, but the rest of it, the internal ones, aren't. There seems to be no excuse, and certainly we find that residents are very, very frustrated by the fact that they've lived there for quite a long time now, and there are these very high curbs, the pavements aren't made up, and the roads could be at this stage. I mean, they may not be final finish, but it's a real frustration. So I think there's something we really needed to get across at this meeting to you. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, not a problem. Firstly, I hope the councillor you're with that fell is okay and there isn't any damage there or long lasting. But yeah, with regards to the roads, well, going through your questions, ultimately the main infrastructure elements, Granger Street, Marsmoor Avenue, Newlands Road, you know, these phases of main infrastructure in which the parcels connect off of, that is installed and operated and maintained by Granger. The parcels where you have the house builders, so for example 3B where we have the house build, sorry 3A, where Barts have bought a parcel of land and then they've installed the infrastructure themselves, and then that's next to the houses, as you say. That is unfortunately not Granger's entity that we're able to maintain or to develop further. In order to try and get the developers to complete their parcels as quickly as possible, as in to bring their road surfaces to finished levels as quickly as possible, we are trying to get our main infrastructure adoptions in place, which then allows the developer, or gives the developer, sorry, more comfort that they can install their finishes onto the roads and to the footpaths, which, because they will only have a 12-month maintenance period that that they can tie in to the back of one of our adopted spaces. Now, I understand that Granger Street has been installed for something like 11 years. So in the last 12 months, I can tell you, or last 18 months I've been involved, Granger Street's adoption and place of where it is now has improved significantly. We are very close to getting that adopted. We had our walkover with the Hampshire County Council on site I think about 2-3 weeks ago, where a couple of items regarding the footpath and the proximity to some existing trees were identified. So we are in the process of trying to agree a remediation for that footpath, which allows us to then remediate that and then have that road adopted. Once that road is adopted, that will then free up the next phases of infrastructure. So the residents that are located within Lark Fields, as I would call it, for example, or phase 1, those parcels that are left and right of yourself when you come in through Granger Street off of London Road, they're what I would classify as Lark Fields. They will then be able to immediately progress with their roads onto an adoption as well and have their roads closed out and have no reason why they couldn't. This is a kind of a how to describe it, waterfall effect where as we get more phases proceeded with and adopted on the main infrastructure, this allows the developers to close out and do theirs. That said, phase 3A is a bit of a different parcel in comparison to our other areas. We don't necessarily have the situation that we do at 3A and other parcels or quite as like it. So we do understand that the Barretts are in the process of coming back to site to conduct their finalised revisions and get their road surfacing finished out on 3A. We are in the process, or we're in long negotiations. In fact, today we were in conversations with Barretts about the remediation works that are required to phase 3A to allow us to then adopt the internal open space areas. So some of the open green areas within the parcels, they will go over to Bearwood Estate Management, who will be managing that area long term. But for Bearwood Estate Management to be comfortable with adopting those areas, we wouldn't want to be taking on an area where a significant amount of rework needs to be done, or road surfacing needs to be changed. So we are in the process. What I'm trying to get to is that it's a painfully slow process that requires us to have phase 1 adopted. Phase 1, I am working with Hampshire as quickly as we can to get phase 1 adopted, which hopefully will be within, well, by May ultimately, but ideally we'll have it before then. Once that's done, that will then give the developers more comfort to finish off their roads and their main infrastructure to a better standard than they currently are installing it, to allow that areas to be better. That said, Barretts, I understand, are working on their areas or plan to be working on their areas very soon, if not in the early new year. I know that they have been tendering that process at present. So it's a bit of a complicated issue, but it will hopefully improve rather rapidly in the next 9 to 12 months on the development.
I do think, Chris, thanks for your answer, and it's a very technical answer, and I understand that there's problems, but there are residents in some of those areas that have lived there for 3 or 4 years now, and they're living with really poor infrastructure, and we need to find a way as councillors to work with you to find a way, even if it's not the finished. I mean, I think the problem here is not your final stage, it's just that it's left in an appalling stage before, you know, and for many years. It may not be right up to standard and at this stage, and I recognise there are complications, but we have to find a way around this, because it's simply not acceptable for people to have to live with this for that amount of time. And you know, if there's anything we can do to try and find ways around that logjam, I think, you know, both Councillor Robinson and I would be very, very keen to do that. Glenn, I think you want to come back. If I could,
sorry, Chris, if I could just add to what Neil has just said. I mean, yes, you gave us a, you know, quite an in-depth, but it didn't actually answer my question, really, which, adding to what Councillor Cutler is saying, is what should the timeline be? What should the expectation be? Because let's make no mistake, those pavements are dangerous. That particular councillor has had operations, and as I understand it, has taken it a step further, because, you know, we're talking about something that's dangerous. You know, it's unsafe. And you know, I actually witnessed this particular person who is, without wishing to sound disrespectful to her, and it's not disrespectful, but she is, you know, senior years, and as we all know, you can have some serious breaks that really can be really catastrophic, and I'm not exaggerating. So I'm sorry, but your answer was very technical, but you didn't give me a time frame. Councillor Cutler there has just said, you know, we're talking about over 3 years. Anybody sat on this forum would probably agree that that is really just not acceptable.
We unfortunately, it takes us as long as we can work through the process with a third party. So a large amount of our adoptions process is outside of our control, as we have to get all the parties legally and technically approving the various elements of infrastructure. So our infrastructure does take quite some time, and we are trying to get things across the line as quickly as possible. Certainly now, with when Granger brought myself on board to predominantly focus on the infrastructure, my goal has been to get the phases adopted as quickly as, or as swiftly as I can. Again, the developers, we are aware of phase 3A and some of the other parcels which are bad, as you say, and we have raised it with the developers ourselves, and we have chased them a number of times and held meetings at director level to try and reiterate that these items need to be closed out. We are working with the developers to get the remediation packages together. For example, 3A, the reason that we have that compound that's been provided to Barrett's with their block storage is to allow them to conduct their maintenance or their finishing and to close out the gaps that are seen in the road or the high footpaths, and to allow them to get that road in that area up to the standard it should be in. So we are working with them, but they are out to tender, and unfortunately it's a third party entity that we have to deal with through another party. So we are applying our pressure, and certainly I'll take on board that we'll have some support there if we need it, and I'll try and think of a way that we can utilise yourselves to be able to provide that extra support to get this sped up for the residents.
Who signs them off? Who signs
Right, thanks for that. I think we've given that a pretty good going over. I have questions from Councillor Crichton and Councillor Reid. I don't particularly wish to add to this conversation because I think we've gone as far as we can on this. But David, have you got something else you wish to raise with Councillor Crichton? Yes, something else.
Yes, Chris, can you just for the record confirm that as part of the road adoption you have got a section 104 agreement in place, at least partially, with LEAP? The reason I ask this, as you'll be aware, there is some scepticism, particularly from the Wellington Park side, with the problems we've had with Southern Water, as to how easy this is going to be done. But my assumption is that if you are close to adoption, that section 104 has been agreed.
Yeah, of course. Our Granger Street Phase 1 is under a section 104, I believe. In fact, I can open up a tracker and tell you exactly what it's under. If it's not under 104, it'll be under 102, but it is adopted ultimately. We have no problems with that to date. In fact, I met with this morning with the latest adoptions manager from LEAP, who is extremely proactive. It is a 104, it is, and it was completed. It was adopted on the 21st of October 21.
Okay,
Thank
thanks
you very
for
much.
that.
Much appreciated.
Councillor Reid.
Yes, Chair, it's just a clarification, just so I've got it right in my own mind. Chris, with regards to the final dressings for highways and footways, that comes as the county council are about to adopt the roads, if my memory serves me correct, and that top dressing, I think, has got to be somewhere in the region of 2 inches thick across. Is that correct?
It's usually between, depending on the makeup, obviously, but usually between about 30 to 50 mil. So yeah, old money, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches.
Thank you.
Councillor Patel, you have a question?
No, sorry, it's already been answered. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question in the chat, which is where does the liability lie if someone is injured on one of these pavements?
It's a bit of a legal question, which is outside of my scope, unfortunately, but I would say that depending upon the location, it will depend upon the liability. Unfortunately, they are classified as private land up until the point that they are adopted. So, for example, if someone was to trip on Granger Street, then I would say that that would fall under Granger currently, even though that phase of infrastructure is on maintenance. However, if someone was to fall within 3A, for example, that would be under Barrett's.
Okay, thanks for that, Chris. Sorry, I hope you weren't too taken aback by being given quite a hard time on that one subject.
Not at all. Not at all.
It's very important for us to be able to get these messages across in this forum. I'll move on, and thank you for that report. You're up next as well with the sustainability report. So can we move on to that, please? Thanks.
Yeah, of course. So again, our sustainability report has come through. I've had a read through this to understand what has been delivered previously, and I'll try and give an update on that. There are a few items which I think have been lost in translation from me explaining a technical aspect through to my colleague that was writing this. So the main item are that we have a large number of open spaces within Bearwood. We have something like 88 hectares, I think it is from memory. It's around about 88,000 square meters. So we do have a large number of open spaces along, which it does include sods and woodlands. We are in the process of looking to proceed with what we can to increase the greenery in the area and to improve the biodiversity of the development itself. Something I would like to mention as well whilst I'm on it is that we are looking to, or we have identified that we have a significant issue with ash dieback on our site currently, which seems to be something that is hitting the UK rather badly, but has hit Bearwood quite substantially. So we are in the process of trying to fix what we can, where we can, but unfortunately some of it will require felling, but we will be doing replanting as a process of that, and something we'd like to do is additional planting as well, but that would be planning items that we need to look at. So our main items on this, from what I've read, is mainly related to the renewable elements. Something that I've been involved with when I joined Granger is the energy strategy for Bearwood, which we have just recently spent an additional £750,000 on upgrades to our network and the connection infrastructure to allow for future renewable energy elements. Some of the users on here might be aware, but in July of this year, it became that every development that goes forward will now have to comply with the current building regulations, which would be the uplifted ones or flows, the new Part L, F, O and S. Part of that, the Part S requires the introduction of electric vehicle charging points. As such, I've spent a long time researching the impact of electric vehicle charging points on our electrical grid, and specifically the Bearwood electrical grid. I've also spent a long time trying to preempt developers on their primary methods of heating, which is the Part L change, and how that will impact our energy grid as well. If anybody has any free time and really wishes to be bored, I'm more than happy to go through the intricacies of that, because it's fascinating to me, but dull to everyone else. But needless to say, Grainger has spent that £750,000 in securing the additional electrical load required to ensure that development is future-proofed, to allow house builders to introduce air source heat pumps, electric vehicle charging points, and any other renewable energy technologies moving forward. Unfortunately, gas heating had a lesser impact on the electrical grid than the new current methods for primary heating. So we're in the process of securing that and progressing through the additional substations with GTC. In fact, I'll be simultaneously planning for about 6 extra substations in the next few months. We also have our contractors as well, which is on the report, that are all considered constructor schemes, but those are our contractors. We do encourage our developers to do considerate constructors where they can. I do know that a large number of them do the NHBC above and beyond elements. So there are a number of ways that the developers and ourselves are trying to provide a better environment. Granted, there was the infrastructure comments earlier, but we are trying what we can to improve the process. And then we have our social sustainability elements. So we are doing all of our travel plan elements with the vouchers for new residents. I understand they come through the developers as well, but that is an obligation under ourselves that's been passed through. We conduct regular surveys with our residents to understand problem areas and where we can get onto these. They're reviewed by myself and David. Previously they were reviewed by myself, David and Jenny and Asim, but they are reviewed by myself and David. We go through them and pull together what we can to try and conduct a kind of you said we did process to allow us to implement changes where we can. Let's see, what else have we got? Well, obviously we have our partnerships with Newlands Community Group, where we are also conducting our big Green Week that we did this year. There'll be another one next year. Our candidates that we've been discussing for the community development manager role, they have some fantastic ideas and I think can bring some interesting things in the future to the table. That'll be great. And yeah, I think I've gone through most of the items on that list really. The Grainger Trust, we obviously are maintaining all of our Grainger Trust elements as we go through. We have our Newlands Community Hall that we've in the process of renting or leasing to Newlands themselves. And our biodiversity and elements there, we are working to improve upon our minimum requirement of 10% by providing a 20% uplift rather than just the minimum biodiversity requirement there. So yeah, that I would say is probably a summary of the sustainability report. Certainly happy to go through questions related to it.
Thank you very much, Chris. That's very, very, very helpful. Councillor Patel, you have a question. You have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for that sustainability. Just as a comment and possibly a question, I don't know, why are we not using solar panels as a de facto standard on all housing?
It sounds like you're straight into my favourite energy area. Without going off on a lecture about the impacts of panels, we're not proposing, well, I think it's extreme. If I was a betting man, I would say that moving forward, you will see PV panels on every house that has a gas boiler that is built moving forward. The reason being that the introduction of new building regulations changed the way that the heating system is is calculated, and in order to do that, to offset the impact of the gas, developers now pay a cheaper rate for a PV panel to allow them to install the PV panel on the roof, because it's actually cheaper to install a PV panel on a new build than to retrofit, and I can tell you that from experience, onto a existing house. And equally, that entire system is cheaper than an air source heat pump at this present time, because air source heat pumps, we don't have enough people in the industry that are actually been able to install them, and equally it's quite hard to get the right design for it. That's probably the best answer I can give without going into the detail, but
No,
more
so
than
that's
happy to bore you.
That's the short answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have any further questions on the sustainability paper? There is a lot of detail in there, and I'm sure if that there are further questions, we can pass them on to
any
Chris
means.
Granger for any further things. So if any members of the forum feel that on rereading it they have any further questions, please let me know, and we'll pass them on to Chris and try to get answers for you. But it's very much appreciated that you've sort of been dropped into both of these reports that weren't initially your function, and we very much appreciate you coming to speak to us, Chris.
No problem.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is an update on the Waterlooville Town Centre regeneration, and we have Stuart Palmer and Wayne Layton from Havant Borough Council, and thank you for coming. And if you'd like to present your update, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for inviting us to come as well tonight. We've got a presentation we'd like to kind of run through with you. This is kind of largely an update from the meeting we had with Fleet Brummond in the Newlands parish in the summer. We can bring you up to date with some of the things that we've been working on. I just wanted to sort of go back to the start and set out some of the challenges that we've got in Waterlooville. As you know, there are a number of different owners of large parts of property within the town centre itself, and as a consequence, we've got units like Waitrose and the Wilcos, and the old Shoe Zone, the former Tesco's, are all empty at the moment, and they're all owned by institutional investors who are non-local to the Waterlooville area. Also within the public realm, that ownership falls to Hampshire County Council. We need their permission to do anything to the public realm there. That's not a particular issue. I'm just pointing out it's not in Havant Borough Council's ownership. And then the final thing, and the reason I mention this, is that whenever we do a presentation to members of the public, they all talk about how they were promised in previous iterations of master plans about how they would have a cinema and leisure facilities. And I think the issue has been in the past that the market hasn't come in and hasn't identified that there is actually a requirement for those kind of big cinema complexes, bowling alleys, and those sorts of things. And in fact, that industry itself is in all sorts of problems. And also, we don't really have a clear plan as a borough council and as a group here as well about what Waterlooville Town Centre is really for. If you look at Waterlooville Town Centre itself at the moment, we have a 20% vacancy rate. That's slightly higher now since Wilcos has gone. Much of the vacant units that we've got are within Wellington Way, and I'll talk about that later on in the presentation today. But we've got, the 20% is above the national average for around about 13.8%. And I think, again, I come back to the point that the rot started with Wellington Way when we had a non-local institutional investor who owned Wellington Way and was quite happy to see it run into the ground until such time as it was able to offload it. So the council has set aside 140 £40,000 to commission a master plan. And another question I get asked all the time, well, you know, why don't you just do some physical sort of interventions on the high street? Why do a master plan? But it's actually really important, and it's part of every question. You know, whenever I talk to a funder or I talk to an investor about what you would do with Waterlooville or any area within Havant Borough, they kind of say, well, you know, what's your plan? And at the moment, we don't have one. We don't have a coherent plan. So we need one that would kind of create a vision for what we want the town centre to be, how that talks to local areas, including the west of Waterlooville area. And it also, you know, it will enable us to then think, well, actually, if a property comes up for sale, could we acquire it? And we actually have a coherent plan of what we would actually do with it. When we're talking to Homes England, the DFT, the Department for Levelling Up, if we would submit a levelling up bid, at the moment, without a master plan, it's quite difficult for us to actually demonstrate why we would justify how that inward investment would happen, which is why, you know, it's important we've got it. And then finally, it's really important as a supplementary planning document. So the document itself, and the one that we've gone out to procure, and Stuart will talk to this in a bit more detail about the tender process and the winning contractor. The document will give us a real vision of what is achievable within the town centre. And what we've said all along is that it's really important that regeneration isn't something that the residents of Waterlooville have done to them, and we want to take them along that journey. And it was really key during the procurement process of getting someone to do the master plan, was that it needed to be led by the residents and by other stakeholders, including yourselves. But you know, before we went out and actually devise what the master plan would be. And obviously it looks at, you know, whether town centre actually becomes more residential, is it retail, or is it something else? And through that process we'll hopefully be able to decide that. And then finally we talk about a delivery plan, and that looks at all sorts of things, and one of the things is about financial viability. So is there a market there for a development within Waterlooville? Now, I live in Stakes Hill Road in Waterlooville, and I know that, you know, locally Waterlooville town centre is really important for people who live. I live opposite my in-laws, for example, and, you know, for them it's a lifeline because they can walk to the shops. We've built, you know, 2,500, 3,000 houses in the west of Waterlooville. Why on earth doesn't Waterlooville town centre work? And, you know, this is something which the master plan is going to help us move forward with a development. So I'm going to pass over to Stuart. So Stuart is our regeneration manager. Also in our team, we've got Rachel Solway, who's the dedicated Waterlooville regeneration officer, who's been working on a lot of the physical interventions we're trying to do, which are quick wins to try and create some good momentum around Waterlooville. But the master plan bit is the important piece of work that we need in order to be able to create a legacy for the town. So Stu, can I hand over to you?
Absolutely, yes. Hello everyone, nice to see you all. So with regards to the tender process and the preferred supplier, I'm sure you've seen the press release, or many of you have. We've awarded the contract to Fiera Urbanism, and they'll be leading a multidisciplinary team. Now, we had 20 comprehensive bids from big names in the industry, really strong bids. We went through a process. They were all assessed on quality and price, and the quality aspect was reviewed, analysed and scored by a panel of officers, which included skills in project management, regeneration, engagement and communications, planning, amongst other skills. And they were the strongest of the lot. We invited 4 down to do presentations, and they all took a different approach to it. But where Fiera really stood out was in the engagement piece. They had strong links with the sort of transport and connectivity to sites. planning. They're really good experts, but where they really came through for us, and it sort of came through in the presentations, was that sort of engagement and sort of gathering views and putting that into the plans. That was the most important piece that came through from that. We haven't had our inception meeting with them yet. It's due next week, and part of the scope for that meeting is to capture sort of the engagement process and what it looks like. So what activity is going to be carried out, how they're going to engage with people. We're bottoming that out through an engagement plan. But some of the ideas, you know, community events, focus groups, there's walk-in tours. There's lots of different ways that we can try and capture views of the local people, get to hard to reach groups, collect that information, collate it, and then feed it back as well and test it with the community. So keep peeled. We haven't finalised the dates of these different events yet, but you'll see through our comms, through our social media channels and the usual channels, that this information will come through, and we encourage everybody to get involved, have your say, so we can capture those views and build them into the plan, the master plan, as we go through the process. Could you go to the next one? So who will be consulted? So there's a few ideas here, but basically we're going out as far as we can. We've already in-house started to collate a huge stakeholder list of people we can identify early on, but there will also be a process we go through with the Fiera team to capture more people. But there's a few groups here, but like I said, reach out to us through those channels, so we can capture your views and also let other people know, you know, where they can get involved and have their voice heard. And when will the master plan be delivered? So obviously we've completed the tender process, we've awarded the contract, and the consultation will take place possibly starting before Christmas and then going right through till spring next year. And we're looking to publish the master plan in spring as well. But there'll be lots of comms, engagement, events, and things, and we'll be doing updates as we go through. One of the deliverables that's been agreed is to do to capture these thoughts and feed them back, but we'll let you know more about that when it's been finalised. Like I said, this meeting's come a little bit too early for us. If it had been at the end of next week or the week after, I could have fed it back a bit more, but I'm just being mindful not to overcommit at this stage until we've confirmed everything with Fiera.
Okay, thanks, G. So let's talk about some of the things that we're actually trying to do now. So we've obviously installed CCTV that went in July. We've had really positive feedback from the police. You can't eradicate all ASB, but it does seem to be acting as a deterrent. So particularly if you walk around Wellington Way now, you'll see a lot of the boards have been taken down, and you know, the developer Quest Map, you know, are putting new glazing, they're white boxing all of those areas at the moment. They weren't doing that before because the windows were just being smashed every 5 minutes. So those CCTV cameras have really made a difference to us. We're trying to look at we put pride of place here. There was an issue with cleansing within the town centre. And I think one of the big things that we were getting fed back by members of the public were essentially there was, you know, it was rubbish, it was dirty, there were weeds growing everywhere. We have been working with Norse to ensure that there's a better public perception, and I think they did hit it. I think it was in probably the first week in August where they did a really big deep clean, and it did look great. I'm not saying that's completely over, but we need to keep up the fight. But I think the first thing with any regeneration is try and get the town centre looking smart, and up to speed, and we're actively working on that at the moment. We've also got not only Norse who work for us, but we also have Hampshire who are also responsible for some of the trees within the public realm. That's their responsibility, and we're reaching out to them to ensure that they keep that up. You'll notice there's a footbridge that goes over to the Wellington Retail Park that's currently overgrown at the moment, and that's with Hampshire, and that's something that we are working with them, and we've said that, you know, that's something that needs to be improved. So what a lot of work that Rachel's been doing at the moment is kind of working with local businesses and just making them aware that Havant Borough Council are here, and trying to make it easier for them to actually operate. And you know, that could be around licensing events and those sorts of things. And she's built up a really good reputation around the town, and kind of has made those connections with local businesses. You'll also notice that we introduced pop-in parking in Wellington Way in July. That seems to be quite popular. We're going to be reviewing that soon to see how well used those units are, and working with retailers there to see whether they've noticed a difference. We obviously had our thunder stolen a little bit by the fact that the owners of Duke's Walk decided that they were going to give away 3 hours free parking at Waitrose, which is excellent, because if anyone goes up, it's absolutely packed now. But this was, you know, in the inception of this really was before that we knew that they were going to do that for Threadneedle. We also launched the vacant shop scheme, and we were blown away by the by the number of applications we had in. So we invited people to put in bids for capital expenditure in order to be able to fit out shop units to help give them a leg up. And this was for companies which were going to come to Waterlooville for the first time, or perhaps they were already in Waterlooville and they were thinking of expanding. We had 30 applications that came in. We weeded that down to around about 16, partly because what we made clear is we didn't want any more barbers, nail bars and beauty salons, because members of the public had told us what they wanted: retail, F&B, and something around the nighttime economy. We've invited 16 to submit a full application. I know up to date now, I think we've had 7 of those back, and now we're going through the due diligence process to ensure that obviously they're bona fide companies. I can't really talk to the applications in this at the moment because we're still in that application process, but it has been really, really positive. And we've had applications from retail, leisure, and the arts. So watch this space. We've also, some of the work that we've been doing as a council is with the High Street Task Force, who have focused on Havant Town Centre. But some of the things that came out of that report for Havant Town Centre can be equally applied to Park Parade, Emsworth and Waterlooville Town Centre. So part of that is around creating, one of the recommendations was about creating a brand. And you see it when you go to places like Gun Wharf, where they have like banners that show that, you know, you're in this area, and you add a little bit of colour to it. So at the moment, we're working on concepts of how we will bring that in, and you know, we're using things which would call on the history of Waterlooville, and again, that work is happening at the moment, and we should be implementing that in the early part of 2024. Partly the reason why we're not doing it sooner is to do with the fact that it's going to clash with Christmas, and there'll be lights going up. So after that, what we should hope is that we will start to see that come into town centre. And I have obviously talked over both of my slides that I was going to talk to there. The other thing we've been looking at is around parklets and about trying to make Queen's Parade look more inviting. At the moment, it's quite sort of concrete based. There are a few trees there, but there's not really that many places where you can sit and dwell for the moment. And improving the seating and some of the planting is something that we're really keen to do. So we're using some of our neighbourhood sill in order to be able to bring forward some of these interventions. And again, we'd be looking to do an installation of those in the early part of 2024. That's going to go through some of the interesting. I've talked about Wellington Way, the planning application for the residential part that you can see in this diagram here, or artist's impression. That's all that's in, and we're actively considering that at the moment. You'll notice that the signs for the gateways for Wellington Way have also been replaced at the moment, and anyone that's walked around there recently will notice that QuestMap has started to fit out a few of the areas. And again, I can't talk to it because it's commercially sensitive, but I know for a fact there's a couple of the larger units within Wellington Way where the owner is in latter talks with getting a retailer in, which will be really good news for us, and we'll hope to see that come forward soon. Probably less good news is Duke's Walk at the moment. So I've mentioned they've obviously given away 3 hours free parking, and I think that's to help the bit between Bon Marsh and well, I can't remember, it's the health food store that's at the end, Holland and Barrett, isn't it? But obviously Wilco's have gone. I met with the agent back in the end of August, and they were quite bullish about being able to get a tenant in for Wilco's. That obviously hasn't happened yet, and I think probably because some of the tenants they were talking about were those which we've already got within the town centre. But we are due to meet with them again to find out what's going on with the Waitrose site. I mean, probably people are bored of me sort of saying it, but Waitrose are still paying the rent until 2026, and you know, I don't think there's a motivation for the landowner to find a new tenant and until such time as that gets to 2026. And the council, again, this is why we go back to why the master plan is so important, because at the moment I don't have a clear, coherent plan of what I would do with that site if we were to say look to acquire it or to try and get another developer in to deliver it. So that's the kind of a whistle-stop tour. Happy to take any questions from anyone. I can see there's quite a few hands up at the moment. I'm going to refer to you, Chair, to sift through.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wayne and Stuart. It is crucially important to the residents in the Winchester City Council area as well. I mean, it's not just the Western Waterlooville development. I mean, Denmead, since the co-op's been shut, you know, the only real alternative is to come towards Waterlooville. Waterlooville town centre has always been important to Denmead. It's been important further afield than that as a potential, but as it's run down, it's become less so. So from the point of view of the consultation and your discussion on the master plan, whatever we can do within the Winchester City Council to help you on that, we're very willing. Michael, Councillor Reid first is first on my list. You want to ask your question, Mike?
Thank you very much for the presentation. I must admit it does look a depressing place at this point in time. I walk around there fairly regularly, but I was interested in the local community element that you presented. We as local members in the adjacent wards would also like to be a participation in this exercise, because as already mentioned by Councillor Cutler, it is an area that we rely on as well as Havant Borough Council members themselves. The vacant shop scheme looks interesting, and I wish you all the best on that one, and look forward to seeing some of the new units open again. So that'd be done. But yeah, it's just the local community. We would, I'm sure I speak on behalf of all our neighbouring councillors, that we would like to be involved in that. And if we can help in any way, please call us.
Yeah, we hear that, and apologies, it's my clunky terminology, but yeah, it's the surrounding area members.
Thank you.
And we have next on the list is Councillor Crichton. David again. Are you there, David?
Yes, oh, I should be.
Yep, we can see you now.
Can you can, okay. Yeah, thanks, Wayne, for that. I'll just add to Mike's comments as well, that obviously we in the parish council, and Mike can put his parish council hat on as well, are also very interested in becoming part of this process, because we represent quite a large chunk of those who will be affected by it. And the thing is that, as you're aware, the town centre in itself is not just an isolated bit in the middle. It goes a lot further than that. The work that we're doing in the west of Waterlooville will include, for example, a new health centre, a further community building, some limited shopping, because obviously we don't want to clash with the rest of it. But we do want to be part of that process, and I just wanted to check that that was the case.
Absolutely. Again, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, David. Councillor Brooke, Caroline, if you'd like to ask your question or make your comment.
Hello. Talking about the cleanliness, so they were focused on the strip down the centre, and I'm aware that since they made that immaculate, all around the bus stop areas and things, there's been complaints of litter, and I know I wrote to Rachel and Gwen previously to get that resolved. But there is, when we're talking about the town centre, we shouldn't just be talking about that strip down the middle. It should be the bits behind. It should be, so when you approach the town centre, it also looks nice. So I just wondered if you are focusing north on making sure that all of that surrounding bit also looks nice as you approach it, rather than just the strip down the middle.
Yeah, totally. Particularly as one of them's my road, particularly. But yeah, when Councillor Robertson and I walked around with Norse, and we went all around the back of Wellington Way, for example, and all the way down to where the Wellington Way retail park is. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the whole approach needs to be looked at. Did you want to say something, Gwen? Sorry, unless you appeared.
I will, if you don't mind. I just wanted to say something at the end, if there's time, Chair. But other people have got some questions, but I just wanted to make just a point. That was all.
Yeah, sure. At the moment, we've got Councillor Briggs at the top of the list.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very pleased to hear you mention master plan, because having been a county councillor for the last 11 years, I have been to so many group meetings. The public have been promised so much over the years. Nothing's come to fruition. We have people on Facebook doing asking people what they want. I mean, it's ludicrous, some of the remarks. We'd all like bowling alleys, cinemas, but you're going to have to engage the public. And plus, I think, I don't know if it's you, Wayne, are you going to Jackie Buckley's community meeting? Everybody's telling us what we should be doing. I think we are doing it now. It's just now people, I will reiterate this again, have been told so often that things will happen. Master plan, I think we're on the way. The footbridge I've already taken in hand. I did that a few weeks ago through lots of complaints from people. The demise of Waterlooville really started with Morapar Way. And with all the different forums that we've had over the years, before all the shops closed, people would come, and it was really all about the rents that people were being charged. And people do really care about Waterlooville, but it's a disappointment that they've suffered. And I know you've explained this has come a bit early, this meeting tonight, but don't use the word possible to people. They want to be kept that it will happen. We are going forward, and we are going to make Waterlooville a place that people want to visit again. So I'm very, very pleased this has happened, because I've been ashamed to say I'm a councillor for Waterlooville. Thank you.
The so the meeting on Thursday is a community-led meeting, but Rachel will be there and be doing a similar update to the one I've just done now.
Yeah, and I will be there as well. And so yeah, I'll be there standing in as well.
Yeah, because what worries me is because with people
Yep.
used to run the events team, it seems that we're not bothering and they're all doing it for us, and it doesn't sit very well with me that they're doing it. Really, it should be us. Thank
Stuart, did you want to just mention about the comms, because that's about timing?
Yeah, there's a few things. Oh, sorry. There's a few things I just wanted to mention. So I'm also a local guy. I grew up in Horndean. I live in Havant now, but I'm very familiar with the area. Growing up, Waterlooville was always my town centre, so I've got an affinity for the place as well and want to see it do well. There's loads I'd like to talk about. I just can't yet. As Wayne said, there's timings for different things, and things have to be agreed and shared in a process. And we're pulling everyone's thoughts, and communications will be going out in a structured way. So I'm being really careful. I'd relish the opportunity to actually come back and talk to you when this is underway a bit more, when we've got a bit more to talk about openly, if you'd have me back. But just to reiterate,
I think that's key. Yeah.
Thank you. There will be comms coming out explaining how everybody can get involved. The red line for the study area is sort of the wider town area. However, Waterloove's got a huge catchment, so it doesn't just consider what's in the immediate proximity. It looks at the Bearwood Estate, it looks at Denmead, it looks at Cowplain. It pulls from all those areas. It's a sort of a regional hub, isn't it, for commercial shopping and things. So the study area will take all of that into consideration and further afield potentially. But we want views from everyone, not just people that are using it now, people that might use it. How can we encourage them to come in? What's needed? There's lots of stuff that will go on, and would really appreciate everyone's feedback and letting other people know, pointing them towards us.
Thank you, Stuart. I have 3 more questions here. I'm going to take those 3 and then ask when to sum up, because it's been quite a long meeting and we've still got another couple of items on the agenda. So I don't want to rush this because it's terribly important, but at the same time, I think we do need to keep things moving. So Councillor Berry, please.
Yes, 2 points. The as you walk down, the block paving subsided in some places, and some is raised up, and it's a trip hazard for the elderly. Also, what are you going to do about these scooter riders who ride through the hell for leather, and also push bikes?
Can I take this one, Wayne?
Please do.
Yeah. So this is what we want to capture. We want to capture these views and thoughts. So it might be a case that we use the interventions, the parklets and things, and we position them or structure them in a place that in ways that discourage that kind of behaviour. There's other solutions available, but we need to capture that feedback from the wider community. What's important, and we also have to be mindful that there's a market there. So how do we work with the market and other provisions to make sure that we're not interfering with the offer that's already there and improving it? But yes, certainly there's things that could be done, but we'll wait to see. We'll pull these views together, and then we'll wait to see what interventions and support we can put in place to alleviate those ASB issues.
Thanks, Stuart. Councillor Patel.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Stuart, for an update on that. I think now the narrative we use in saying what the master plan is very, very important, because as soon as you say the word master plan, it kind of resonates to something in the future, 5, 10, 15 years away. And that's not the message we want to give to the residents and people. We want to give them something that we're doing. There's got to be small wins. So that narrative that you come up with has to be really right and spot on. Otherwise, you know, people are just going to turn their back and say, oh, it's another master plan, another blue sky document that's going to come out, and the council's wasted 150 grand in producing that. So, you know, I know you will take care of it, but it's just a pointer. The second thing is, did you say you're going to put some Christmas lights in the town centre?
The Waterlooville, sorry, Wayne, shall I just, that Husky, that's down to the, what was the WAG is now the Waterlooville Events Community Team. They're looking to do that. Yeah,
and you know that I'm part of that, so I wasn't aware that we, you know, it's been okayed yet, because we are trying to get that done.
Why did you ask the question?
No, because I thought there was a separate thing that Wayne was going to do it. So.
Oh, I see. Right,
sorry. Yeah. I mean, interestingly, I think that's a very interesting point from Councillor Patel, because certainly in Winchester we've found that with regeneration projects, the combination of doing some work early on to show intent and the need for that strategic longer term narrative, you know, there's very much a balance to be found there, because people need to see something happening, but it doesn't want to be piecemeal. It does have to have that master planning element, and so yeah, I think, you know, it's a very welcome approach to balance those two things. Doing this short-term improvement seems to be really key to show intent. Councillor Chamberlain, you have a question, and that will be the final one I'll take, because I said I'd take those last three.
Thank you, Chair. And it was partly addressed by Stuart earlier on, but it just strikes me that I guess the question is, how are we defining sort of the focus of the communications and the catchment of the consultation? Because Councillor Cutler talked about Denmead and obviously it strikes me actually even Hambledon, Southwark, you know, there are areas actually that are a bit broader, a bit wider, that you know, certainly could be an opportunity for this. And I was just wondering whether that was factoring into your thinking at the moment or not.
Yes, it is. There's a reason why the comms, we're not reaching out constantly, and we're going to do it a particular way. One of the phrases coined was thunderclap, if you've heard of that approach, but there's different strategies that can be employed to sort of reach out and ensure we get the momentum and engagement that we require, but certainly all those areas, you know, will inform the master plan to some extent. Obviously the reach will be as far as we can push the message out and get people to engage with us, you know, where their interests lie, which is why, you know, having you guys here, being able to talk to you and getting you guys involved is key, so you can feed back to your constituents and get the message out there.
That's a really important point, because we can spend a lot of time and money trying to get people to have some say in this, but you get the same people, and that was one of the things we liked about Ferrier, was about how they access those people who don't get involved in it, and that's the bit that's really difficult. So, you know, you guys can really help us by talking to people and saying, oh, you know, have you heard that there's a consultation going on? Have your say. You know, this is your opportunity to do it. But it's, you know, you guys are councillors. I bet, you know, when you go and knock on every door and you probably get 10 people that actually vote. You know, it's that kind of situation, isn't it? So you can help support us by doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important that, you know, sort of, so that you communicate with us as to what stages there are. This is a really important initial stage, but if you have got stuff to get to us before we have our next meeting, you know, let's engage, pass it on through. So I'd like to wind up this agenda item, because I think we've given it a good going over. Councillor Robinson wanted to sum up, I think, and so if I could ask you to do that, Gwen.
Yeah, and I'll do it really, really quickly, because I'm aware that everybody's tired. Yeah, I think there's two things. I mean, a lot of, you know, we're all following social media. I started a Facebook page. I find, you know, you get the, you know, why are you bothering? You know, will it be a success? Well, I have to be honest, for my mind, I look at retail parks, and the retail parks in Waterlooville, the ones in Havant, everywhere I go, the retail parks are a success. Retail parks are busy. You know, nobody goes to the high street because they shop online. Well, I think straight away, the fact that the retail parks are as vibrant as they are proves that people do like to venture out into the real world, breathe fresh air and speak to people and actually touch things and buy things. So, you know, for that reason alone, we mustn't give up on the high street. I'm actually really very proud that we, you know, we really are now addressing, we're going to create this colourful, welcoming space. And I really do believe that that will be the catalyst for change. The one thing that, you know, and I have spoken to Wayne about this as well, you know, promises, lots and lots of promises, as Anne Briggs said, lots of promises have been made in the past. You know, now is the time for delivery. You know, the residents will take no more excuses now. You know, we are making these promises and we must deliver, and I have absolute confidence that within the Regen team that will happen. I'm going to thank them, you know, for all their work. And Wayne knows I'll be really cross if he doesn't give me what he promised me by March.
Well, I mean, it is the one aspect of it that I think is really ambitious, is to do a master plan in 4 months. But best of luck with it, and thank you very much for coming along to the forum and giving us this time to talk to you about it. I will move on now to the next agenda item and ask, I don't know if Andrew is with us, but I know Emmeline is, to give the verbal update on where we are with the arts panel. Emmeline.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry to keep you waiting for a couple of hours, but
not a problem. I promise I will keep my bit brief. So I am Emmeline Hickman, Culture and Creative Sector Development Officer for Winchester City Council, and I'm just going to give a quick update on where we've gotten to with the arts programme. So since the last forum meeting, we've been working closely with our colleagues in procurement, legal and finance to procure the resources required to do the review and redevelopment of the arts programme. The tender was released in late May and sent to a select group of potential bidders with specialist expertise in this type of work. We received 6 submissions, and following shortlisting, we invited 3 to come to an interview, and representatives from Winchester City Council, the West of Waterlooville Forum and Newlands Parish Council were invited to observe those interviews. We are really pleased to confirm that in July we successfully appointed Studio Response and GJG Consultancy to lead on this. And they've been asked to develop a complete programme, but will only be responsible for delivery against the current available funds, and delivery of those future programme elements will be reviewed as and when we meet those occupation trigger rates on the Section 106. Officers Granger and Studio Response have completed an initial inception meeting and site visit and have begun working on some of the community engagement. Studio Response have also begun their review of the existing programme. Members of the West of Waterlooville Forum and Newlands Parish Councillors have been invited to a consultation workshop in November. Unfortunately, response rates were quite low, so no date has been set just yet, but we will look to confirm by the end of this week whether we will proceed with November or look to convene people in December or January. We are keen to ensure that members have the opportunity to input into this programme and the new programme, so it would be useful for us to understand if there are any barriers to engaging, whether that is just that it was a really bad week that we happened to choose, or whether you've got any preference on time of day or day of the week and things like that. So if you do have any comments on that, please do contact me directly and we will factor that in. Studio Response and GJG Consultancy will finalise their review and continue working with the community over autumn winter, and meet with officers and grangers in the new year to sort of agree that new direction of travel. And then our intention is to have a new public art programme for agreement by the end of the financial year, with the artist procurement and delivery happening in the 24-25 financial year.
Thank you, Emmeline. That was very, very concise, and I'm glad progress is now being made. And apologies for not being able to meet any of those dates that you sent through. Do we have any questions from members of the forum? Nope,
No
I
hands.
think everyone. No hands at the moment. I think probably running for slightly more than 2 hours has probably meant that you've got away without any questions, but I would urge members to engage with Emmeline to try and get things together so we can workshop this, because I think it's really important to have that engagement. Okay, so thank you very much for your update, and I'll move on to the item 12, the Newlands Parish Council update, which we've added to the agenda. I know it's very late in the meeting, and I asked Councillor Crichton and Councillor Berry to put together a brief report. Given how late we are, I'll give Councillor Crichton an opportunity for a minute to, if there's anything he wanted to add, but any brief additions, or Councillor Berry, and any questions from members will follow. So, David, you're muted.
Right, that should be. If you can hear me now, as there's nobody present from Taylor Wimpey on this, the points that I've made on here, just a couple of things that are important. There are delays at the moment in the road adoption, which goes back to the Section 104 agreement with Southern Water. Plus, Taylor Wimpey are waiting for 2 legal agreements with Winchester. One is in relation to the easement for the overhead cable that's required to be buried as part of the industrial development, and that's still outstanding. And the other one, I think you're aware with already, which was to do with the other easement. The situation, as I understand it, is that once that 104 is agreed, there will then be a 12-month period of maintenance before road adoption can be considered once the rest of the work goes on, which means that the likelihood of the Spine Road adoption before probably another 18 months is highly unlikely. And at that point, there will be traffic orders put in place, which are actually integral to the part of the agreement for the industrial area. But there's one other implication of that as well, and I'm sorry to take time on this, but that's the Sickle Way situation, where the work has now been finished, but there was the discovery of a residual planning obligation going back 18 years, which should have been discharged about 12 years ago, which would involve closing Sickle Way. Now, we have a situation where virtually nobody wants it done. We have the involvement of fire and rescue who have objected to it, but we have to find some way of getting around the residual planning requirement. Now, we've got about a year, 18 months to get this done. So I'll be working with the planning departments to find the best way to get that obligation reversed. Other than that, the work is going ahead slowly. We have a promise to at least get the lighting fixed in Wellington Park, and I'll keep in touch with Taylor Wimpey and will report back to both the forum and to individual members as things actually happen. So thank you.
Thank you for that, David. I think it's important that as an agenda item, that particularly for Havant councillors who don't have parishes, to recognise that there's quite a bit of work undertaken by the parish council, and it's very appropriate in this forum. So has anybody got any questions to David? I see no hands, so I will move on to item.
Chairman, can I just add one final piece as well?
If you're quick, David.
Very quickly.
I'm keen to keep within
Yes,
2.25 hours.
I just wanted to make the point that we are still waiting for the adoption of the open space within the Havant part of Wellington Park. I know that there are reasons for delay on this, but this has been going on for about 5.5 years now since it was first agreed. And that is causing problems in terms of both the maintenance of the areas, particularly along the stream, but also the eventual maintenance of it when the parish council takes over the Winchester part of the open space. And I would also point out that we have an issue in that the play area that was provided as part of the 106 agreement with Granger, in the one piece that has been adopted by Havant, was removed for reasons which I fully understand. And is not going to be replaced there, but we do need some agreement with Havant for some replacement facility as part of that 106 agreement somewhere within the area. I simply want to raise that as an outstanding issue. Thank you.
Thank you for that, David. I think that's one of the things that we will note and follow up with our meetings with Havant as we progress with our engagement broadly with Havant, which is as Winchester councillors. So thank you for that. I'll move on to item 13 if there are no other questions, which is any other business. Is there anything that anyone wishes to raise or anything that anyone wishes to raise that should be on the agenda of the next meeting? Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chairman. It's really just to point out that at 6:57 this evening, the network went down from my point of view. I don't know whether anybody else has had the same experience, but it came back after about 4 minutes. So there's a little gap at that point in time, but as far as I was aware.
As far as I know, nobody else suffered that.
I can confirm the YouTube is continued throughout, so we've got a full recording. Councillor Reid will be uploaded to the website if you need to listen to that bit.
You want to catch up on that 4 minutes?
I think I can get away with that. I think I'll talk to other people.
Right. Well, if there's nothing else that anyone wishes to raise, I'd like to thank you all for attending what I think has been a very useful and informative forum. Thank you in particular to the officers that have given up their time, their evenings on this to keep us well informed on this. So thank you all very much. I don't know if Councillor Robinson as Vice Chair has any comments you'd like to make just finally.
Yeah, no, only very, very briefly, Chair, and that's just to say, as I say, thank you to all of the participants, all of the presentations, to Horizon, to the Regen team. So I think it's been a very fruitful meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, and I declare the meeting closed.
Sorry, Chair, on the very last note, can I just advise members that the next meeting is scheduled to take place on the 5th of March.
Okay, sorry, I meant to add that. Yes, thank you, Claire.
Can I request
Righto.
that we don't do Halloween next time, because it's a nightmare for those of us with young children and dogs, because I should have been out trick-or-treating and every time someone pressed my doorbell, the dogs barked. So it's been a nightmare for me. Please don't do that again.
Steve Lincoln, I think.
Yeah, Steve, do you want to comment? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to respond to Councillor Brooks' comment just now. That was mentioned actually when I spoke to our director earlier on today. So she's already got it in hand, and we're going to try and make sure that 31st of October is not a date when we hold any meetings in future.
Okay, righto. Thanks, Steve. Bye all.
Bye.
You can stop recording now.
Good night.
Claire, thank you. Bye.
Good night, everybody.